Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of the Flipside with Blake Schultz. I am your host / your person here, and I'm here with one of my very good friends, Marcus Kennedy. Marcus, thank you for being here. You were at ARC Realty, so you're an agent, and you were at ARC before I even started, right?
Barely.
Right, like you were there before me. It was you and I think John was in there and a couple other guys. And I remember I had no idea what selling houses or being an agent was. And I was like, man, this guy likes to play tennis and likes to play basketball. So I can jive with that. So first, thanks for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you inviting me.
Yeah. So I know you from those things, from the investing world, the rental world. Our families have hung out. Got a beautiful family, but I want to go back a little bit. Who were you before all that? And you can go back as far as you want, but kind of take us back from the beginning and what your journey looked like to get here.
All right. Well, first of all, I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. Grew up in Birmingham. Went to John Carroll High School. From there, went to University of Montevallo. Played basketball there for 4 years. Had a pretty decent career there. And towards the end of my college career, started having some talks of playing professionally overseas. So I went that route. So after I graduated from University of Montevallo, I went and played professional basketball in Luxembourg, which is a really small country right in between Germany and France. Played there for 6 years, had a blast, experienced a lot of different things, went a lot of different countries, and just bounced all around the place. And so probably around year 5 is when I would come home for the summers. And I met my now wife when I came home for the summer. And she thought I was done playing basketball, but I actually had one more year to play. And so
per contract or just mentally?
Just mentally. Okay. I mean, I was at that time 29 years old or 28. And I was just like, all right, I can't do this forever. So yeah. Physically, I was still good, but I was just like, all right, I want to get back and get into the working world. And what the working world was to me at that point, I did not know. But what I did know was I wanted to get into real estate investing. So my last year there, I reached out to a good family friend who I've known since I was probably 5 years old, who is Tommy Brigham, which he's started the company that we work for, ARC Realty. And I asked him what was the best way to get into real estate investing. And he told me the best way he thought was to become a realtor. And I said, I don't want to be a realtor. He was like, look, you're going to experience everything. You're going to come across properties you normally would not have. You're going to understand the industry and on and on and on. So that's the route I took. I knew I didn't want to sit in an office for 8-9 hours a day, every day until I'm 65. And so that's how I became a realtor. And that was in 2013, which is crazy to think it was that long ago.
Yeah, 10 years ago.
10 years.
That's crazy. What a ride. Man, so a lot to unpack there. So I want to go back. Let's first start talking about living overseas and just that experience. You got to, kind of travel the world. How broad was that league?
So the league wasn't that broad. During preseason, we would travel to other countries to play, but during the season, we would play primarily within Luxembourg.
Okay, so it's just teams within the country?
Correct. Which you wouldn't believe. There's a lot of teams within the country.
Really?
Yeah. And there's different leagues. So there's the top league, which is the league I played in. And there was lower leagues that we didn't play them. But yeah.
Like expedition games, you would go and maybe play some of that lower teams, but.
Well, yeah. And I can't really explain how it overseas ball works in general, but just about in every country, there's what they call a cup, where you do play teams for a lower league so basically we played a championship where you would play to win a championship. Then a cup is where you would play against all the teams, even in the lower leagues. And then even those lower league teams have a chance to win. The funny thing about that is, so there's a league, B league, C league. If you played a C league, it was a random draw. The game would start off 20-0.
With them up?
Yes. So because they were, not as good as we were, they would get an advantage score-wise.
Did they ever win?
We
no.
Rarely do they win, but they might win one game to the next round. But typically they would still lose. And the main reason for that is because only in the A League did they have professional players. The B League and C League were just players that were
like more local.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And so the A League was like, we're recruiting internationally.
Correct.
And it's like
there was paid players and Euro players who were from different countries. So so they really never stood a chance. They were it's almost like they were playing a professional team versus just
like pickup ball.
Yeah.
So B and C didn't get paid.
No. Well, no. Not really. No.
Not enough to make it significant.
Exactly.
Right. Like, hey, like that was your career. That's your
income. Like we had sponsors. Yeah. We had most everybody on the team was paid.
Wait, do you have a sponsor?
Not personal.
Oh, like the team
sponsor.
did?
Yeah, the team did.
I thought you did.
Dealerships,
I didn't know about this. Yeah.
All that stuff. Yeah.
Oh, that's
cool. So you should have seen my car while I was there. It was a little small Ford Fiesta with logos and stuff all over it.
I'd love to see at least a picture.
I think I have a picture.
I want to see how you find in that thing.
Yeah. And then, of course, most everything over there is stick shift, which I did not know how to drive a stick shift over there. But I taught myself in a parking lot at midnight.
Yeah.
And the rest is history. I actually kind of miss driving a stick shift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No wrecks or anything?
No wrecks. I'm a great driver.
They drive on the wrong side of the road there?
No. That's
no.
Okay. That's like Britain and a couple other places.
I don't know anything about that part of the world. I've been there.
Man,
I want to go.
As Americans, I mean, once you go over there and experience that, your worldview just opens up.
Yeah.
Just because America is so big, it's easy to just focus on your own country.
Mm.
Whereas most other countries, they kind of they have to be aware of what America is doing financially, politically, whereas we really don't have to, for the most part. I guess we sort of do, but we're kind of the trendsetter, I guess you can say it. So we just, for good or bad, we just don't pay attention to other countries.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so you played for 5 years, came back here
6 years.
In the summer. Well, so you met Sophia year 5, right?
Year 5. Oh, I'm sorry.
How'd y'all meet?
Where are you going? Blind date.
Really?
So
because Tinder didn't exist. There were no phone apps.
Well, they probably were there, but
you weren't on it.
No, I wasn't on it. A friend of mine I went to college with, that she was at that time working with at Ernst & Young, which is an accounting firm, said, "Hey, you guys need to meet." So she invited me to a going away party for one of their coworkers. Had no business at this party. And
you only knew one person?
I knew the person that invited me.
Yeah.
And I probably knew a few people.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah. So met there. Funny story about that is we were leaving that party and we decided to go somewhere else afterwards. And Sophia gets in her. I asked Sophia, "Hey, you want to go somewhere afterwards, hang out with some of our other friends?" She said, "Yeah." She gets in her car. Instead of going forward, she goes in reverse and hits the car behind us.
Oh, no.
Which is the friend that introduced us.
Are you riding with her?
I'm not. I'm parked like further up, but I heard the collision and I get out and I'm thinking, she's going to want to go home after this. So I said, "Hey, you want to go home?" She said no. And that's basically when I knew.
Yeah.
She wants me.
Yeah. Man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What do you love most about her?
What do I love most about Sophia? Well, 1, she's beautiful. 2, she is a godly woman. And she's a great mother, a great wife. I honestly can't say anything bad about her in either one of those aspects. So, when looking for a spouse, as men and women, we all have certain qualities that we're looking for. And she basically checked every box for me.
Yeah.
So she trusts me in everything we do, but again, good or bad.
Yeah.
She knows that I'm always going to put our family first. And I'm never going to put us in a situation that, at least not on purpose.
Yeah.
A situation that can harm our family. So, but yeah.
And that's awesome. Y'all have a beautiful family. And, I don't think we've talked about this, but had this conversation before about like putting ourselves in our spouse's position of being like, probably not easy being married to me. Like being realistic, it's like, man, I am all over the place. And just the entrepreneurial spirit of we might go 10 different directions and say, hey, this is going to be crazy. And just having that spouse next to you to support you. And Sophia does such a good job of just like, look, I'm here. If you decide to do it, like, let's go. I'm all in. Man, that's awesome.
Absolutely.
So you got some beautiful boys now.
Yep, 3 boys, 5-year-old, about to be a 3-year-old, and about to be a 1-year-old.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So kind of busy.
Yeah.
It's going to get busier soon once they get into sports and all those activities.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So how was the transition? So you went from professional sports, coming in, being a realtor with the intent of really not wanting to sell houses, but to invest. What did that look like give me like a kind of a 2-year period of that mindset switch of competitive professional sports into like the working world?
Well, I always thought that sports kind of translated well into sales jobs, which I guess you can say being a realtor is a sales job.
Yeah.
In sports, you kind of have to be self-motivated. You're naturally competitive if you are in sports, and then moving over to the sales world, it's the same thing. The biggest drawback or most difficult thing is, whereas in the sports world, typically you have a coach who's telling you what to do, who's telling you what not to do. Whereas in real estate, you do have those things to an extent, but for the most part, you kind of have to be self-motivated, and you have to be able to control your schedule and do the things necessary to get sales.
Yeah. So how did that relay over kind of those first years of going? Because I definitely get that, man. The first probably 5 or 6 years of my career, I didn't have a coach, even though everyone's like, you need to get a coach, right, in business. I don't need that. I can do it myself. But and then once I did, obviously I saw kind of a takeoff in business. But what was like that going from having a coach your almost whole life playing sports to going into a business of, all right, here I am. What do I do?
Yeah.
Like what did that look like?
Well, as you can imagine, it was a big transition. You had to kind of learn what work was and actual work was, as opposed to killing time.
Yeah.
So especially those first 2 years, I remember going to the office often, but a lot of times it was just to talk with other agents.
Yeah.
Which there is value in that. But once you got home later that day, you're like, what did I do today? I think I talked to like 10 different agents, but I don't think I generated any business. And so, it took longer than I would have liked to realize that. But I also think that was a necessary kind of thing I needed to figure out on my own, and figure out what was productive work versus what was busy work or unproductive work.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Having relationships with other agents is important. It's a long game, right? Because short term, those agents aren't buying a house from you, right? But having that relationship and them getting to know you and how you operate and what your goals are, I think does help set you up for long-term success, especially if you have the investor component of it. Most agents, or a lot of agents, especially in our market, are not investors. And so if you put yourself out there as, hey, I'm an investor and an agent, and other agents know that, and they know you, they trust you, they know you're a good person, they'll bring you deals, right? Sure. And I think we've both seen that. Yeah. And so that's one of the reasons we're here talking and doing this podcast, is just getting the message out there that, hey, we play in both of those worlds, and they complement each other, and we're here to help. And so I think you've done that well, kind of setting yourself up as that's the type of agent person I am.
Mm-hmm. And just kind of playing off of what you just said, I noticed a big difference before COVID, when you were around people more often, and like you said, people kind of knew what you did. Hey, I invest, and people would send you stuff. And then COVID happened, and everybody kind of hunkered down in their homes, and relationships weren't as fostered, and you just kind of potentially saw things. People weren't calling you anymore, telling you, hey, I got this deal. And so, just like I said, playing off what you said, those relationships are important, and people knowing what you do is also important.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's fast forward up to today. So I know you've got some rental. We really haven't caught up in a while, just lives and lives being busy. But tell me where you are, what your focus is from the investing side, sales side, and what's new today.
Yeah, so I think I told you probably some months ago that I had kind of just stalled on the investing side for some years now. And it's almost like, I feel like I'm almost starting from square one again. One, because the market has changed so much from when I first started, but two, just kind of trying to figure out the prices. It's hard to make sense of a lot of the prices these days. And so, when you first get into real estate investing, one of your biggest hurdles is, the financing side of things, trying to find money. Luckily right now I have that covered, but I'm just not having the deals, which I think, it used to be you can just go online, look at some foreclosures, make a couple offers, and now you have homes. But now, I feel like there's a lot more investors jumping in the market. At the same time, you have to be a little bit more creative on how you get deals. So all that stuff kind of tied together is kind of slowed me down.
Yeah. Well, man, you're right. There's two sides of the coin. You've got, if it's easy to find money, which I think it is right now, it's fairly easy to find money if you're raising it or going to a bank. It's harder to find deals. And go back 10 years ago, kind of when you got into the investing world and started to pick up properties, it's pretty easy to find property.
Man,
it was hard to find money, right?
Hindsight is 20/20. Isn't that what they say?
Yeah.
I mean, if you could go back, you literally just had to go on a website.
Yeah.
They had 50 to 100 foreclosures.
Yeah.
Obviously nobody knew that the market was going to appreciate the way it has now, but we'd all be set at we just,
Well, so you look back and say that was the opportunity then. If I could figure out how to fund it, man, there was such opportunity, and the appreciation would have been great. So the question that I always pose and think about is, well, what is that opportunity today?
Yeah.
So what should we be targeting and thinking about that, what's easy to find? I think that answers money and funding. So how can we solve the problem of not being able to find those houses? And I don't know.
Well, yeah, I think that's a very valid question. And I think about that question often because you hear people always say, if I could just go back to 2008, after the crash and buy some of those homes dirt cheap. But we can keep saying that 2008, 2012 to 16.
Yeah.
And all during those times, there was always times to make money.
Yeah.
And to invest in real estate. And I think now is a time as well, but we just have to figure out what that strategy is and roll with it.
Yeah. I think personally, I would rather be in the market we are in today than where money is easy to find, houses are harder to find, versus the flip side of that. Because in my opinion, the problem we have today is you can solve it with hustle, right? We can go and physically knock on doors, put letters out there, make calls, and then that's fully in my control on how much input I put into that. I can't really control where a bank's going to set their rate, right? Or I can't really control about how much money is in the market that I can raise. Now, I can control calling people of, hey, do you want to invest in this deal? So there's a little bit of control on finding money, but I think there's more control on finding deals. And it's just who's willing to put the time in. And it's just like, it's just old school hustle.
You're right.
You can't find an app to solve the problem for you. And so I would rather be in today's market, even though it's tough. There's no such thing as a perfect market, right? There's always going to be a barrier because it feels easy. Everyone would do it.
Yep. Absolutely.
And social media, unfortunately, is kind of showing or presenting that it is super easy. And then, so that's a whole nother trail. But I like this market. What do you think about it? Would you rather be in this kind of market where the money's there, but it's harder to find property? Or do you like it where, let me find property, I'll figure out the money?
For me, let me find the property, I'll figure out the money.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah.
Just because, but it's easy to say that now, looking back 5 to 8 years ago.
Right.
I kind of know what's going to happen.
Right.
But, I might look back 5 to 8 years from now and say right now was a perfect time to jump in. So it's a hard question to answer.
Yeah, it is, because we don't know where the market's going. It could go up another 30% or it could come down 30%. So, and I think to mitigate that risk is, how are you going to buy today, right? You've got to build in a certain risk factor of adjusted depreciation or appreciation on that value. And then what is your goal for that asset? Is it a flip? And that's a very different purchase criteria than a long-term rental.
Yep.
So a lot to consider.
Yep.
So for your investing, what is your target? Are you looking for flips, rentals, wholesale?
I would like to keep everything I buy at this point in my investing career, but at the same time, I realize that not everything makes sense to keep, depending on the layout of a property, depending on the numbers for a property. Sometimes a flip makes the most sense.
Yeah.
but I would like to get into more apartment investing. Single families are great, but once you've been around long enough, you start to realize it's a lot harder to scale and a lot more work as well. So, but at the same time, apartment investing right now is just on fire. Like, you got syndications and large institutions buying up everything, but at the same time, that's been happening for a while anyway.
Yeah, I feel like it's more known now. Again, social media kind of promotes that. It's a cool thing to do. HGTV's helping bring awareness, I guess, is the positive way to say it. But yeah, there's a lot of attention on it. I see a niche from maybe 20 units up to about 100 unit buildings or apartment complexes where I would say guys like you and us actually have a chance, because the big institutions won't come, maybe even up to 150. Biggest institutions won't come down that small. It's just not big enough for them. But then your mom and pop, maybe they'll go up to 20, maybe 30 or 40, but they really don't push much over that because you get into the seven figures pretty quick.
Yep.
And I think there's a niche to where if we can solve the money problem, find that property, we can be competitive players in it. And so personally, that's what I'm chasing right now as well. And it's hard to find, but they're out there.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, sweet. Well, what are you excited about? What's coming up?
What am I excited about? Well, I think we are currently in October, practically November. I think it's always exciting to look forward to the new year. Something about a new year just makes you want to set new goals, want to improve every aspect of your life, whether it's your investing life, health journey. So looking forward to the new year.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed 2023. Forget what year.
Where are we?
Yeah. I've enjoyed 2023. I'm not trying to let it fly on by, but looking forward to a new year and new possibilities.
Do you have you broken down any of those goals for the next year yet? Or are you
So usually I will try and start setting goals probably in November, mid-November. And what those goals are, I don't know yet.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I love that. Do y'all, I'm kind of jumping back a little bit. You did a lot of traveling early on in your career through your first career in sports. Have y'all, as a family, gotten to travel, or do y'all have any like big trips on the bucket list that y'all want to knock out?
Well, I have a big number birthday coming up.
Uh-oh.
And I am about to turn 40 years old.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And so, unfortunately, we can't take a trip on my actual birthday because my wife, as a accounting teacher at the University of Alabama, is not able to just take off whenever. It probably have to wait until the summer.
Yeah.
So I told her I did want to take a big trip in the summertime. Another unfortunate thing is because we have small kids, we really don't want to be going too long. My parents would be happy to keep them for a month if we asked them, but we don't really want to be away from our kids for 2 weeks. So a real kind of big place I want to go is Australia, actually.
Yeah.
But it takes forever to get to Australia, and if you go all that way, you need to probably stay for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So we haven't decided where I want to go, but definitely have a big trip on the horizon.
That's awesome. I've got a buddy from there, so I'll have to hook you up with him. I'm sure he can show you around. And so, well, cool. Before we wrap up, do you have any, I always like to ask for book recommendations. I don't know if you're a big reader. I don't know if I've really talked about it, but
I go through
any top like real estate or business books?
Off the top of my head.
I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, you are.
I think give you a heads up.
Yeah, I need a heads up on that one. Because I was at one point, I was like ripping through books like a couple of years ago, and then went through a little dry spell, and now I'm just drawing blanks.
Yeah.
So
all right, text them to me.
Yeah.
Put them in the show notes,
All right.
and we'll go from there.
Cool.
Marcus, thanks for being here, man. It's always good to catch up with you. Looking forward to seeing what next year brings for business, for family, hopefully a trip to Australia, and we'll catch up later.
Thanks for having me.
See ya.